United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Sorry we're a few minutes late. We just had an executive session downstairs, which was posted on the front door that we were having it. Is there any public comment on the agenda items? Anything? Okay. Previous minutes, need an approval for April the 24th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And need an approval for May the 8th.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Communications, I received, I may have brought this out at the last meeting. I received a letter from the Highland Falls Fort Montgomery Central School District signed by Dr. Frank Chaboy concerning the speed limit on 9W around the school. I think I read that last meeting. Since then, I wrote my own letter, which I'll read because it's my letter. I have this is sent to Mr. Todd Weheis. He's the Regional Director of the New York State Department of Transportation. Dear Mr. Weheis, I have a business located on Route 9W established in 1969. I'm also the present Town of Highlands Supervisor. In my years on Route 9W, both as a business owner and a resident living next to the highway, I have observed a drastic change on Route 9W. I go back to the days when it was a two-lane highway with a clearly marked school zone at the area of the elementary school. In those days, we had a constable, Chief Bob Bailey. He alone controlled the road. If you were speeding going north, he would stop you and make you go back to the Bear Mountain Bridge Circle and tell you to try it again. Those days are long gone. We have a very fast four-lane highway, but one thing remains constant, the school. As much as DOT might not want to establish a school zone in that area, it needs to be done. For the few hundred yards traffic would have to suffer at a 15-mile-an-hour speed, it will make the area so much safer. Strangely enough, adjoining the firehouse is a clearly marked sign with signage saying that there's a traffic light that can be controlled. There's a sign saying there's a firehouse there, and there's signage for that. There's also a traffic light that's controlled by the in an emergency by the fire department. When walking in this area, you can feel the wind and the ground shake when tractor trailers go by at a speed much faster than the posted limit. We have erected a electronic radar speed sign to slow the traffic down. I've asked our police department to periodically strictly enforce the present limit, 35 miles an hour, to emphasize the meaning of the warning signs. Please come on down and take a look. I'm sure you'll see the need for improvement. Keep in mind the school is open during the normal school year and not during the summer. So that's kind of like a personal, casual letter to him, hoping that along with letters from our representatives in Albany will get him down here anyway and see what he can do about it. And when you think about it, I thought about it as I wrote that letter. It's like a few hundred yards of 15 miles an hour, so it's not going to kill anybody to do that speed. It might kill somebody if you don't do that speed. That's not even nice to say it that way, but I received from the Department of Health approval of the plans and specs for what we're calling Phase 4. That's the Canterbury Road going up to Deer Run Road. That project is at a halt. I have no money, but I do have the plans all approved, which we'll hold on to until such point as we find some, we'll call it free money, grants, or whatever have you, to finish that project. But the trust is close to out of money, and there is just no more money to go up the hill, which we're looking at about $400,000 we need to go from where we're stopped now by Miles Lane to go up to Deer Run. You can announce that when you get to your point. I have a letter to Mr. Patterson, our highway superintendent, from Robert and Joan de Blasi. I just want to thank you and the two fine gentlemen, Ryan Falk and Rodney Brown, for the fine work they did cleaning up the wood, branches, and all the mess from the tree falling on my house on Mother's Day at 4 Grove Place in Fort Montgomery. I cannot see any other town going out of their way to make sure the community is well taken care of by the highway department. I have been living here for 40 years and been picking up garbage, recycles, and between picking up the garbage, recycles, cleaning the streets, and all the items that people put aside to get rid of. Thank you for your great efforts and the fine crew that serves our community. That's a very nice letter from the community, thanking our sanitation workers. Okay. We spent in the last paying account $50,177.43. The higher items were engineers for the Franklin Street curb replacement, $11,158, which is covered by, what do you call that? It's not a grant.
Chips.
CHIPS. No, not, is it CHIPS? No, isn't it what we got from the school street money moved over?
Oh, that was the multimodal, grant,
It was a grant, yes, okay. It was a grant that was intended for one place, and we moved it to another. O&R utilities, $3,169. Legal services, $6,993. Sewer supplies and materials, $2,324. And our fuel consumption that's gas only, $2,976. We have some budget transfer requests. We have a request to transfer $3,000 from Water District Number 2 equipment to Water District Number 2 other expenses. That would cover some of the unbudgeted engineering services that we have occurred in the district. Do I have a motion to transfer that money?
Go
I'll
ahead.
second it.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Transferred $300 from dog control utilities to dog control training. That covers some unbudgeted dog control training. Kathy went to a 2-day school up in Albany area and come back with some good ideas. So I'll ask for a motion to transfer that money.
So moved.
Seconded by?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Okay, Board Liaison reports. Bill, we might as well start off with you. You have a guest here tonight.
Just a couple of things before I get to the item on the agenda. Congratulations to Assemblyman James Skoufis on his wedding this last Saturday.
Thanks.
Hillary's a great girl and make a fantastic couple. Wish them all luck in the world. We did a cleanup this Saturday out on 9W between the battle site and the car wash, and we had a pretty good turnout of battle site members and Rotary and some other notables. I hesitate to list names because I'll leave somebody out and feel terrible. But much appreciated to all of them. And all the bags were transported to the town garage where Pat will dispose of them. We have a distinguished guest here, Randolph Horner. I keep saying, I say very proud of myself they didn't say Randolph first. I keep, sorry.
You could do one of those balance transfers.
Randolph is one of our members on the HPU. He's done a lot of fantastic work, particularly in the northern, north of us in New York State with clean energy, and really an expert in the field and a very good public speaker. And I guess you and the supervisor spoke on the phone this morning, and you had seen him speak at the village meeting and invited him here. Is that accurate? Want to come up and tell us what's going on with the HPU better than I did the last 2 weeks?
Thank you very much, Mr. Edsel. First of all, I have a very, very pleasant duty of thanking this entire board. I believe that Councilwoman Voltaire made the motion and Councilwoman Gunza seconded, and there was a unanimous vote in support of the resolution supporting the High Point utility. And what does High Point utility mean? High is for Highlands, the town, Highland Falls, the village within the town, and Point for the United States Military Academy and the West Point garrison. So High Point Utility is a not-for-profit entity chartered under the not-for-profit laws, Section 1411 of New York, and it functions as a local development corporation. It was started under the leadership of Pat Flynn with a tremendous amount of community interest and support. But in my view, as the guy who gets the prize for being the incessant commuter, I happen to reside 65 miles north of here. I've made many, many dozens of trips down and hundreds of phone conferences because there's a remarkable opportunity for which this local development corporation, this LDC, was organized. And that opportunity has to do with the fact that sweeping changes are underway at the West Point garrison. And there's an opportunity with the leadership of civic leaders who are in the overall group working to try to bring these things together for this civilian host community to cooperate and to link up with the garrison in ways that other host communities have jointly acted with posts, bases, forts, what have you, across the United States. And it's in the taxpayers' interest to find common purpose with the municipalities that host these bases. About 4 years ago, there was an effort led by the then Deputy Secretary of the Army, Kathy Hammock, whom I've met a number of times, to go forward with what they called the Net Zero Initiative in the Department of the Army. And there was a competition amongst the many, many dozens of Army posts or garrisons or bases to participate in this prestigious effort headed up by the top echelon of the Department of the Army and the Pentagon. And there were only, of all the bases that wanted to participate, there were only 3 that were awarded a project or an opportunity for net zero energy. Other categories were saving water, less solid waste, and so forth and so on. West Point, the military academy, as the premier institution of the entire Army, made its play and it got the nod. About this time 4 years ago, the then garrison commander, Colonel Dane Rideout, had a group of consultants and created a voluminous environmental impact statement about what all the different measures could be for clean energy, energy efficiency, and various things that were proposed as options for that garrison commander and subsequent commanders. And we're on the 3rd now in this process to which I've been a witness. In between, Colonel Landy Dunham was very, very encouraging as we formed the Local Development Corporation, the LDC, in order to look for ways for the two governments as what I see as a community that happens to have two governments within the community to find common purpose with regard to infrastructure, energy, and resources to save the federal taxpayers' money, to save the local taxpayers' money, and to do a better job. So going over these points as quickly as I can, and I appreciate the fact that this is a far more cordial reception than one that happened a few days ago when we were trying to lay out how good this is for the citizens, the homeowners, the businesses, and the taxpayers. So thank you for your cordial invitation. The important thing to understand is that the garrison, that's the physical support for the military academy, is in the process of obligating to spend a very substantial amount of money ripping out all the worn out and needful of replacement infrastructure, all the pipes and wires in this very, very substantial campus. And some of them, it's part of a process called utility privatization. And the whole idea is that the private sector, the vendors who've been qualified by the Department of the Army to be bidders, can do the best possible job, but here's the catch. When they spend this money, they're not spending the taxpayers' money, they're spending money provided by the vendors over 5 years to get this infrastructure in order and then to receive the return over a contract of 50 years. Now, there's some people younger than I am in the room, quite a few. I'm 70 years old. I may live to be 100. Medical science is wonderful, but I'm not going to live another 50 years. So whatever our ages, whatever our station in life, these civilian governments, village and town, this community, by virtue of the fact that we have built this relationship with successive garrison commanders, we have an opportunity to participate jointly in building a community energy system that can help save energy at the municipal level all the way down to the homeowner level. And that's going to take place over a period of years. It's not going to happen instantaneously, but it should happen in concert with this utility privatization process that's going on at the garrison. So there's the possibility of shared resources, and what are some of the things that could happen that affect the hamlet of Fort Montgomery within the town of Highlands, as well as the village of Highland Falls within the town of Highlands? Well, for one thing, the water supply doesn't reach everybody in Fort Montgomery yet, but one would hope that over time extensions of municipal water could occur to the extent that municipal water does come from the village's treatment facilities to at least a portion of Fort Montgomery. That portion and the village are dependent upon a sole source water supply that was challenged in January, where 10 or 20 gallons of diesel were spilled in an accident, and the water superintendent managed to control that instantaneously. But it was enough to hurt the water supply, but it was eminently controllable. Then we know that a truck overturned and dumped 1,400 gallons, which is a real wake-up call to the fact that we need to organize our resources within the two governments, and this government is as important as the village government, even though the village owns the treatment and water distribution infrastructure. We need to pursue not just state of New York, but also federal resources to safeguard the water supply from up at the source all the way down to the treatment plant, and to look at other issues concerned with clean water at exactly the time that the state of New York is finding new commitments to clean water and wastewater infrastructure in the state. Now, Long Island has some very, very serious problems, and they're making a strong play to get their hands on as much of that state money as they can. Who can blame them? So this double wake-up call, little wake-up call, giant wake-up call, should spur us on to work together in finding the resources to protect the water supply now and for the future. Another thing is the extension of natural gas service. And we're at a very interesting position where I'm standing in your town hall. We're, just at the northern range of where the actual line of demarcation is behind me by a couple of miles, but we're at the northern edge of where Orange and Rockland could distribute natural gas. We're actually right here, we're standing at the very southern edge of where Central Hudson Gas and Electric does distribute natural gas. We are at the northern edge of Orange and Rockland's electric distribution. No Central Hudson Electric coming over Storm King. So we are at a situation where the cooperation and collaboration between the HPU, which, in case we haven't mentioned it before, is chaired by Mr. Edsel, who's been one of our very, very faithful board members and took the chair as Pat Flynn finished his term as mayor. So we wanted to have a strong elected official. Bill's there, and he also has very important professional and personal experience in these very fields that we're talking about. So it's important to understand that as we collaborate with the garrison, we are creating an opportunity for the new enlarged natural gas supplies that the garrison will need coming south from Central Hudson can be extended to give greater service, not just in the village, but farther down into what has heretofore been an Orange and Rockland gas territory that they cannot serve. They cannot recover enough money out of rates in the stipulated period of time to pay for what it would cost to come through the Harriman State Park and so forth and so on to get to Fort Montgomery. It doesn't work. It would cost many millions of dollars more than they could recover. And so in that situation, they just throw up their hands and say, we can't do anything for you. And I personally know of advocates who have sought to find ways, for example, to get gas to the high school. So that's one of the things HPU is acting as an enabler, a facilitator, a communicator. And HPU does not have itself the authority to take the municipal role. The municipalities have a certain defined role and a broader interest in what is good for the community as a whole. The HPU is acting as a facilitator, in particular with West Point. And finally, the whole idea that is taking hold across the country about putting together municipal resources in order to access clean energy supplies, affordable energy supplies. This doesn't take anything at all away from Orange and Rockland. They own the wires. They are the electric distribution company, but they don't make the electricity. And to the extent that I just spent the last 3.5 years as a party to an extensive array of proceedings at the Public Service Commission, that's the energy regulator for the state. And there is a tremendous wave of development of renewable energy and what we call distributed generation. And Central Hudson is not at all opposed to that. Central Hudson, I misspoke because I'm from the Central Hudson Territory. I meant Orange and Rockland. But Orange and Rockland, a subsidiary of Con Ed, Central Hudson, National Grid, Avangrid, which used to be called NYSEG, all of the utilities in the state have the role to foster and encourage more distributed generation, particularly generation sources such as solar energy, generation sources coupled with energy storage. And that adds a certain resiliency. It tends to soften the impact of grid outages and other things. It doesn't make them go away completely, but it's what's happening in the business today. And I'm a solar developer. I'm a very large-scale solar developer. So I'm interested in the outcome, and I've tried to lend what I know about how to get it done. I can tell you, some citizens, some homeowners, some businesses may have elected to invest or go into debt to put solar on the roof, which is commendable. But you can't do it for everybody. And there's not time tonight to talk about the whys and wherefores of the solar industry as it evolves, but one of the wonderful things to come from the HPU can be that ultimately we have an integrated community energy system. Orange and Rockland will still be the entity with the trucks, and they own the wires, and they know how to keep things running, but in terms of more energy resources that work together with Orange and Rockland's delivering the electricity, these can be cost-saving options for municipal governments, for businesses, for homeowners and neighborhoods. All those things will work together. So I've summed up the really high points, but the theme that I would articulate is that the economic engine of this section of Orange County and one of the economic engines of the Mid-Hudson region is the United States Military Academy. And to the extent that we could foster more cooperation, more collaboration, and more resourcing, there may be an opportunity as we develop this relationship for resources to be made available that would help to make the energy system in this pocket. The pocket, as I see it, is between the Bear Mountain Inn and Storm King. And we're isolated here in this broader energy node. We've got the river here, we've got the mountains or hills there, and so coherent energy planning for the decades to come that can be coordinated with the big move that the Army is making with a 50-year plan is only for the good of the taxpayers and the community. So I've tried to sum it up. I would invite any questions and certainly hope we can have more discussions, and maybe the town could have a workshop and business people, institutions, the churches, the schools could be invited to come in and do some more sharing. And I would be pleased to help that effort, Supervisor. So I've tried to get over the ground as fast as I could. Thank you for your patience.
You did great. I have one correction to make on,
Oh,
on
I don't
the
know.
presentation.
What did I do?
How about that? You said one day there might be water down to Fort Montgomery from the village. Right now, 2/3 of Fort Montgomery, it is supplied by the village.
No, I meant to say it might go through the whole extent of the hamlet. That's what I meant. I know you have a very important number of water customers who are depending upon this sole source. And I want to be very careful. It's not just an emergency like an overturned truck. That's just what brought it to a head. But there are leaders in town who've explained to me about the long-standing concern about an unprotected water supply coming from Bog Meadow and going through, and this is not saying anything negative about the Army. The Army has a concessionaire. They have a lease. They have an operator there at the golf course. But what has been expressed to me is any golf course anywhere. Nobody's throwing any rocks at this one in particular. Things are put on the greens and the fairways. We don't want to be drinking. So this is the moment in time, and I can say nobody in the HPU has ever been paid one single dime of money. Eventually, the HPU, by virtue of organizing projects that bring resources, and an example is the Demand Response Project, where the Academy, the garrison, is going to save a lot of money, and a proposed plan has also been worked through. Those who were watching the village trustees meeting the other night, our former mayor, Pat Flynn, got up and mentioned the fact that during his tenure that an opportunity had been created for the village to save some tens of thousands of dollars on what we call demand response. And that's just being ready to answer Con Ed and O&R during the most severe approach to near brownout. In other words, maximum summer heat load, air conditioning load, verging toward an electricity shortage. And at that moment in time, if you're willing to turn on certain generators or turn off certain loads, you can get rather well compensated for that, even if you've only turned it off an hour or 3 or 4 hours in a whole year. So these are some practical things that we've been arranging where there will be some funds paid for helping to facilitate that much, much larger for the academy, because it's a big operation. So the HPU is self-sustaining, does not take any tax money whatsoever, but seeks to bring other resources from outside the community to bear upon these goals that we've talked about. So I'd invite any brief questions, but you've been very generous with your time, and I'm going to give you all a business card so that you just pick up the phone and phone me. It is true that I'm 60 miles north, but there's so much to do down here right now that I'm back and forth quite frequently. I'll be here tomorrow, and because we have an HPU meeting tomorrow evening. So
Anybody on the board have any questions?
Pretty thorough.
Anyone in the audience have any questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Horner. Carrying on. Bill, you all set?
Yeah, I think so. It's hard to add anything to that. Just, I would say, I was talking to, it's interesting how things grow and it creates new opportunities and new problems. I was talking to Pat, thanking him about taking the garbage from the cleanup. And I say, we need to talk about perhaps, maybe some summer helping with the cleanup. But he was just telling me today he's really struggling with the workload with the 80 new homes and the meter reading. So we have to look for opportunities on how to, it's another problem for the board to solve along the utilities angle. But again, if you had a private entity that eventually ran the water systems or something, and I don't think it would ever be the HPU really doing that. It would be more of a larger type entity do that type of thing. Maybe you want to just.
I left off what could be the really, really big thing in addition to everything else, and that is the High Point utility came along after it had long been proposed to create a joint wastewater treatment, a regional facility, to take advantage of the fact that the Army is about to spend and has already started spending a lot of money in the wrong place. So, but I held that back because there was a certain element of controversy in the village meeting, and we're not looking for a fight. What we're looking for is the best solution that honors everybody and makes the best use of public funds. But, however, it still remains a very, very interesting and high potential possibility, and the story isn't over yet. A gesture was made toward an environmental impact study that was released the day I was at the village trustees meeting. That is a step along the way, but it's a long way from being a complete action. So.
Kai, everything?
Oh, yes, a couple of things. So good evening to the folks who came out tonight and the folks at home. In reference to seniors, on May 15th, the seniors in Highland Falls attended the annual Orange County Seniors Appreciation Event at Cools in Middletown. And it's reported that the event was attended by over 300 seniors. And these seniors were members of senior organizations like the Highlanders, for example, but throughout from throughout the whole Orange County that attended this. I'm hearing that they had a great time, and so that's a good thing. And if anyone is interested in seeing pictures of that event, they can go to the Town of Highlands Facebook page, and there should be some photos of that event. Tomorrow and on May 30th at 10 a.m., the seniors can participate in light exercise and meditation at the Senior Center. Every Wednesday and Thursday at 12 noon, seniors can play bingo at the Senior Center. And one of the issues that they're consistently being raised by the seniors is the possibility of acquiring their own bus or van of some sort. Apparently, then in Cornwall, the senior citizens there have their own van. So just to bring that up to the board that we may hear more and more about that from our seniors. Moving right along, got a letter here from the Laura Lanier Juneteenth Committee, and it says, "Greetings, the second annual Laura Lanier Juneteenth Festival." For those who don't know, Laura Lanier was an Air Force veteran, born and raised here in the Highland Falls, New York area, attended James I. O'Neill High School as well as all the other local schools, returned from the military after serving honorably, and just a couple years ago had an untimely death and departed this life, leaving behind 2 twins. And so this concept of Juneteenth, which she brought back from having served in the military in Texas, had learned that in Texas there was this holiday that commemorated the end of slavery. And so back in 1865, the slaves took the word June. The former slaves took the word June and the number 19, the day that they were freed, and combined it and made a word called Juneteenth. Well, Laura brought that back to New York, and if you're like me, then you probably never heard of it growing up in New York. But she came back and diligently started to educate people in her church, St. Mark's Baptist Church. So when I came out of the military and I started to research, about this Juneteenth thing, what I found after Googling where is it celebrated throughout the world, Highland Falls, New York came up on the internet. I was so surprised. All these other large places like Atlanta and Detroit and even some places overseas, but then boom, there's Highland Falls, New York. So that was due to the efforts of Laura Lanier. And so in remembering her, this festival has been named after her in her honor to keep her legacy going. But the second annual Laura Lanier Juneteenth Festival Committee would like to invite the community to participate in the Juneteenth Parade, which is Saturday, June 24th. It's going to be a short march from Sacred Heart Church, which is 353 Main Street, 10 a.m. To 11 a.m. down to Memorial Park, where there will be a flag-raising observance. Last year, as you know, we had the beloved Buffalo soldier, Sergeant Sanders Matthews, as the first honoree to help raise that flag. And may he rest in peace, as we lost him this past September. So this year, there will be some other dignitary that's invited, from what I'm told. So moving right along, after those activities at Roe Park, there will be a 3-on-3 basketball tournament, which is actually named after another veteran, a deceased veteran from Highland Falls, New York, named Anthony Kimbrough. Charles Anthony Kimbrough, may he rest in peace, was very instrumental in working with the youth in the community. So as we thought about how to, as the committee conveyed, as they thought about how to honor him, they named this 3-on-3 basketball tournament, which will take place at Roe Park, 1 p.m., 24 June. Apparently there's 30 participants already registered for this tournament, and they're coming from places like Poughkeepsie and from Newburgh and Highland Falls, of course, and some other locations. Vendors, look like there's going to be an array of vendors out there. There will be a children's zone, which would consist of face painting and some other activities for children. And there will be a music concert, which is going to be featuring a lady named Melba Moore, a Tony Award winner. So anybody of my age group or over may be familiar with that name. Some of you young people are going to have to Google that one. But Melba Moore, a phenomenal artist, is still out there active, and she's coming to Highland Falls, New York. It'll be right there at Roe Park. And then the following day, on Sunday the 25th, there'll be a gospel version of that concert. They call it a gospel showcase. They used to have some local artists throughout the Hudson Valley performing. Donations will be greatly appreciated. If you have anyone out there that would like to donate or sponsor, send checks or money orders to P.O. Box 155, Highland Falls, New York, 10928, and it's under the Laurel Lanier Juneteenth Committee. Signed, Brenda Joy Griffith, the coordinator of this year's committee. So I thank you all, if you're watching at home, anybody involved in this process, just like I had the opportunity to be involved with the 4th of July committee. It's hard work. These committees typically are out there on long days and nights to try to figure out how to make the community better and how to bring some well-needed quality of life to the community. So thanks for that.
Thank you, Jim. June?
I've been busy with numerous meetings, and everything's going well in the police department, and that's it.
Good to hear. We've been both busy with our meetings, that's for sure. Yes, Adrian?
Sir. So I wanted to just sort of expand a little bit on what you spoke about with the letter that you wrote in regard to the school zone. At our last meeting, if anyone was watching, I was a little incensed that that we didn't have a school zone in that area. And so I spoke with the supervisor about it, and he had told me about his letter, and that also that Dr. Sheboy had initiated something with Department of Transportation, and then I've also been told that Assemblyman Skoufis has written a letter to that effect as well. But when the supervisor and I spoke, we thought that it would be, that it could behoove the community to have people from residents write letters as well. And so what I'm going to do is put the information on Channel 23. Also, people could just contact me directly as far as who to write to and where to send that if you also feel strongly, which I think a lot of people do, from what I've, people that I've talked to. I think that would be helpful because, like I said at our last meeting, I think it's far more important to have a school zone in Fort Montgomery than it is to lower the speed on Storm King Mountain. But that's another story. So that's one thing. The other thing that I mentioned at the last meeting is that I was going to be doing some work on the NYSERDA Clean Energy Communities initiative, and I have been reviewing some of that and what's needed. I also spoke to Nick Moran today, who is from the Hudson Valley Regional Council, who came in and gave us a presentation some time back in regards to moving forward. We have initiated 2 of the 4 necessary high-impact actions. We need to amend the last one that we did slightly, which was adopting the unified solar permit. But once we do that, Nicholas is able to apply for a $2,500 grant for us for really nothing. So that I'm hoping to get that fixed and done within the next week, and then moving on to the next 2 actions that we can take, and then to be eligible for the larger grant money. Aside from that, I just wanted to mention that tomorrow evening at the center at 6:30 p.m., there is a meeting for Friends of the Center and volunteers. Is it tomorrow at 6:30, right, Denise? Yeah, it is. Okay. Is there anything else that I should mention specifically? No, okay, never. No, I'm sorry. I put you on the spot. That was just the main thing that I had in my head. Anyone interested in volunteering or helping with the center's mission, please come out tomorrow evening. Meeting starts at 6:30.
I think this morning at the center at 9:30, they had a sit and chat where whomever brought an item in, a local item in, an older item, and could talk about it.
Oh,
I did not attend,
Right.
but I,
It's usually in.
It's Mondays,
Yeah.
yeah.
9:30 to 10.
mhm.
It's always in the news of the Highlands. Mary Jane does a good job of covering all the activities at the center, but I thought that was an important one to mention.
Okay, thank you. Ponytail softball, Brooks's Lake Park. The swimming pool we have down there as a ball field. This is from our highway superintendent, and actually, when we were talking about it the other day in my office, I got a phone call complaining about the park. This has really been a wet year, and I'm not sure anybody realizes how wet it is, but in March, we had 4.6 inches of rain, April, 4 inches of rain, and May, up to now, we've had 5.5 inches of rain. That's a total of 13.8 inches of rain this year so far. That field isn't capable of sopping it all up. But what we're doing, what we've done, there's a stream that leads, there's a dam, and the dam was all plugged up with debris. And people always say if the lake gets so high, that's why the water comes up there. So the highway department has taken away all the debris. The stream is running really strong, and we're doing something, I know, because it's running less and less all the time. So we are topping off the lake. The pipes and basins that drain through the park were all checked for flow, and they're flowing properly. The stream on the east side of firefighters has some sticks and debris in it, and they cleared what they were able to. In the right field, you're going to see an excavator there, and we're going to try, there's supposed to be a spillway all the way on down to the road, and there is a pipe going out into the drains. That's all plugged up. The whole thing is plugged up, so we're going to be ripping that out and clearing what we're able to clear. So he ended this by saying, someone's letting their dog do business on the outside of the first base fence. They should be ashamed of themselves and clean it up. But anyway, we are working on that field, and everybody knows that Brooks's Lake Park is kind of a passion of mine. I try to do what I can get done down there, and we are working hard on that. Also, we are working on something that people keep complaining about, and I'm just going to tell you straight how it is. Canterbury Road, we are waiting for the trust who has the money to repair the road. And if the trust isn't giving up the money, then the road's not getting repaired. Now, I don't mean that to sound like the road is not going to get repaired, but that's what's holding it up. We're trying to get the money from the trust, which it's there, and they're going to give it to us. It's not as if they're not going to give it to us, but that's what's taking the time to get Canterbury Road taken care of. Also down in Miles Lane, the homeowners down there that are waiting to get hooked up, and they're litigants. If they're litigants, they're waiting for the trust to send their plumber, if that's the right word for them.
Sure.
Their man.
Preferred contractor.
There you go, contractor down there. So we're waiting on that also. And if you're on Miles Lane and you're not a litigant, you might as well go ahead and get it done, because you're going to have to pay for it and get a contractor in there to do it. So those are my excuses why some things are not getting done, but they're really not excuses, they're reality. I have a request from the Church of Bilingual of Highland Falls, Church of God Bilingual Highland Falls. Every year they do a revival in Memorial Park. They've been doing it for the last, I think, 5 years that I know of. It's put on by Pastor Matos. Is that how you pronounce it?
Matos.
Matos. And he needs I've got his insurance covered on the dates. And so the dates would be the revival from 1 to 3 June, and inclement weather from 8 to 10 June the following weekend. Time is from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And I just need a permission of the board to allow this. I'd like to make a motion?
I know, maybe not last year, but one of the years it was extremely loud and there were a lot of complaints. So
Yes.
he's aware that they have to have it a reasonable,
Absolutely. He's been warned. Yes, he's been warned.
okay.
Okay. Now do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. The MS4 report, which is not something I'm passionate about, but it has to be every year. Yeah, illegally. And we have Fusco Engineering did the report for us. It's a much better report this year than what we put in the past, and our reports have been approved in the past, but it's a much better report this time. I found about 6 different things in there that weren't exactly correct or needed to be added to it. But as far as I'm concerned, the report's ready to be sent in, if the board will give me permission to sign it.
I'll make the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so carried. That's done. I have a resignation from, where's it at, June?
Nicholas Vega,
Nicholas Vega,
effective May 29th,
effective May
6th.
26th. And the chief is recommending that we accept his resignation.
I'll make the motion to accept the resignation of Officer Nicholas Vega, effective May 26th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So carried. I would like to make a motion that we hire a police officer to fill the vacancy on the Town of Highlands Police Department. This officer will start at basic wage and serve a maximum probation. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So carried. All right, I forgot Chief and Deputy Chief when I had department reports. Do you have anything for us?
Just a couple of things.
Sure, come on up.
A little bit of cold. We are continuing our...
Please come up to the microphone.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you. We got to get everybody in town to know who you are.
We're continuing our patrol function on 9W, so hopefully we're bringing the speeds down. So daily, in the morning and the afternoon, we have patrols assigned there. We took part in the intermediate school fun night. We had a vehicle up there. We stopped by and to interact with the children so they could go through the vehicle. We joined the Highland Falls, the village PD, and the state police were there as well. We've briefed our patrols, obviously, with the week coming up to West Point graduation, and we've posted the activities in the area, and we've asked them to be vigilant and to obviously keep an eye on traffic control. And then June 10th, we'll be actively involved in the Answer to Cancer walk with our patrol units as well. Other than that, all smooth.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. Kelly, do you have anything? No? Nothing? Justin, do you have anything besides the resolution?
Just the resolution, sir.
Okay, as everyone knows, we've been against anchoring oil tankers in the Hudson River, and barges, I should say. They have an Assembly Senate bill that has, it's on the floor in the state and the Assembly. And it's an act to amend the environmental conservation law and navigation law in relation to consideration of environmental conditions when permitting petroleum-bearing vessels to enter navigable waters. This bill will allow for additional environmental scrutiny and tanker avoidance zones. Now therefore be resolved that the Town Board, Town of Highlands, in its capacity as governing body of the town, does hereby support the enactment of New York State Senate Bill S-05197 and Assembly Bill A-06825. And be it further resolved that certified copies of this resolution shall be delivered to the governor, Senator Larkin, Assemblyman Skoufis, and the town clerk will do that job for me. That's all I have. Town board have anything more?
No.
So we have,
What'd I forget?
So moved.
Oh. See, if it was on my agenda, it would have been no problem with it. So therefore, I have this resolution of support. Do I have a motion to move the resolution?
I'll make the motion.
second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Sorry, who seconded it?
I did.
Thank you. Councilmember Edsel?
Aye.
Councilmember King?
Aye.
Councilmember Gonza?
Aye.
Councilmember Voltaire?
Aye.
And Supervisor Lipsy?
Aye. Anything from the audience? Public comment?
I'd like to thank Randolph for coming down to Kingston to finish the commentary on the HPU, which I think is very complete, and you can get a much clearer picture of overall efforts that we made. We are going to go down to Princeton to look at their microgrids with the colonel next week, and if any board member can make it, come with us. Hoping verbal paper record. We're going to look at what they've done in a way that may work for West Point and Highland Falls County Jail.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment?
Yes, I do. You had mentioned the walk. I didn't catch the time. Would you repeat that, please?
The what?
The Juneteenth parade.
Oh,
At 10 a.m.
oh, my
on the
apologies.
24th.
So the parade or march will be June 24th from
10.
10 a.m. to 11.
Okay,
Thank
and the three-on-three basketball?
That starts at 1 p.m. at Roe Park.
And then you said also there was going to be a concert, and what time does all that start?
That starts at 3 p.m. and will probably go till 9 p.m. And it's about 10 acts, some coming from as far as New York City and Newark, New Jersey, and others from Poughkeepsie and Peekskill, and then that culminates with Melba Moore, who, by the way, will meet everybody that comes out. She will meet and greet folks, so you get a chance to actually meet her.
Melba will be there Saturday and Sunday?
Only Saturday, 24th.
And Sunday you're having something?
Sunday, starting at 3 p.m., will be a gospel showcase. So gospel artists who sing gospel music, church music, will come out at the Roe Park, the same location, but starting at 3 and probably only go to 5.
Sharon, would you like this sheet we have up here?
Pardon?
Would you like this sheet that has all the info on it?
No, that's fine. I wrote it down in my thought because I missed it, maybe somebody at home missed it.
Oh,
That's
okay.
great
No,
questions.
that's fine.
Great questions. Thank you.
Ty, do you know the groups that are going to be in the gospel? Is the ladies from St. Mark's going to sing?
Not yet. We don't have them confirmed as of yet, but the invitation is going out to them to.
Those ladies are very good.
Fabulous. Yeah, right now there's some discussion about St. Mark's and St. John's combining to make a joint choir to perform together. So that's what they're trying to work out. But other artists, gospel folks, there's a young lady who just released a single from Newburgh, New York. She's coming down. And then there's a group from Poughkeepsie that is coming. And that's all I can remember on the top of my head right now. And I wanted to say one last thing, Supervisor Livesey, I was out at Roe Park this weekend, and I mean, it just dawned on me, having lived here, grown up here, but then gone to the Army for 30 years, you didn't really appreciate how beautiful the area was until I came back. And so the parks, just want to say thank you and appreciation, a deep appreciation for all the folks that maintain the parks, the Roe Park and the one in Fort Montgomery. I think these are some gems. They got to really get the word out because I tell you what, there's some beautiful facilities, and I think it's going to be a great time for both 4th of July and the Juneteenth Festival to showcase what we have here in this area.
I got one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
Has there been any talk with the village so far regarding the consolidation issue?
Consolidation issue, there has been no talk with the village so far. But that more or less has to come out of the village
Right.
because they're the ones that are talking about.
I wasn't able to make the village
Yeah.
meeting. They had it there and I couldn't make it up the stairs.
That would have to come out
Thought
of
I'd ask.
them.
All right.
Proposal for it. And with cooperation from us, there's no doubt about that.
That's great. Appreciate that.
Yeah, the Consolidation Committee has not met since the transition.
Well, okay. That's good to know.
Just want to thank Kelly to publicly, I don't know if the board saw the email that they came out and audited the street lights last Friday, right?
Friday.
This coming Friday. Oh, they're coming well, I know Kelly had a lot to do with getting that coordinated and stuff, so thank
She's
you.
got a lot to do with everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Being no further, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for attending. Thank you. Thank you at home for listening.